On today's episode of Elevate Your Wealth, we're going to be talking about how important it is that we keep track of our cash investments, what we're doing with cash, and also we have an interesting discussion on longevity risk and possibly living into 100 or longer and how that's going to affect your portfolio. That and so much more on today's episode of Elevate Your Wealth.
And now, Elevate Your Wealth with Mark Stimpson and Casey Elkins.
Welcome into Elevate Your Wealth. Your host, Mark Stimpson and Casey Elkins, 42 combined years of experience in the retirement planning business. They are certified financial fiduciaries. It's all about helping their clients get ready for their retirement. You can find them at Elevated Financial Management right here in Seattle. I'm Morgan Patrick, and again, it's always about retirement. There's going to be an opportunity to get on the calendar at Elevated Financial Management, and the appointments we open up for our radio listeners are complimentary. Gentlemen, Casey, Mark, how was your week? It's been a minute or two, but it's good to see you guys. Good to talk with you. But how was your week?
Oh, it's been great. Yeah, it's been really good. The weather's getting a little spotty up here in Seattle, so we're all dealing with that. But no, things have been good. We've been really busy. It's been nice having some of the new staff that we've got here at the office, and things are going really good.
Yeah, and I want to give a shout out to a brand new sushi restaurant in the South End. So if any of the listeners out in Auburn, Kent, Federal Way, or South Seattle, Aji, which is a brand new sushi restaurant, and I love sushi, but it's probably one of the nicest sushi restaurants I've been to in years. So I highly recommend checking it out. If you listen to our show, we talk food sometimes, but I definitely want to say it is well worth stopping in and meeting Daniel, the owner. Super nice guy, and I think you'll be very, very excited and impressed if you try out Aji. That's AJI in Federal Way, Washington.
So Mark, I got to ask you: do you have a go-to? Do you have a certain style sushi you like, or do you just try everything?
Well, for me, I do like the sashimi, but actually, he did a presentation with some nigiri sushi, which is the rice, below the piece of fish. But what was cool was the dry ice that he used creates the fog, and it was covering the whole dish when it came. I couldn't believe the presentation, and his fish was just phenomenally fresh. I was very impressed. But we love rolls. I know Casey loves different type of rolls. Mm-hmm. He has an extensive list of rolls that I've never even seen or heard of on the menu, and everything I've tried so far, I've been there 4 times already in like a week and a half. And so you can
sounds like somebody's got a problem.
Yeah, 3 of those were in the same day. That was breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I went
Saturday when it opened up, and then I was there on Sunday for lunch. So it was good.
That's
a good place.
I always like the chirashi bowl. That's called. Yeah,
that's what I had on.
You get a mix, right?
Sunday,
I always like that, right? And they can kind of put their flair on it, right? However the chef wants to do that. It's good.
Yeah, I love good, clean eats, and that sounds like a wonderful place. Well, gentlemen, we get into retirement discussion, and I love the way you guys tackle it. It's whatever's hot we end up talking about. Cash-loving investors digging in even as rate cuts threaten payouts. Why did this catch your eye? And we're starting with this today.
Well, I think really what catches it for us is that we know that there's cuts coming, right? We understand that interest rates will be going down at some point. The Fed has made that clear. How aggressive they're going to be kind of remains to be seen. Mm-hmm. But we do know that's coming. And so I think what's important here is that we appreciate the value that cash has in a portfolio or in somebody's overall financial picture. But there's a fine line between the protection that it provides, and yet at the same time, the drag that it can have on your performance in your investments, right? So when we're talking about retirement planning, a lot of the times what we see when people have a lot of cash, it's because they're scared. It's because they're nervous about what's going on in the market. And you know what? For the last couple years, having a good deal of cash has not necessarily been a bad thing, right? Because of interest rates where they're at. But that being said, if we know interest rates are going to start pushing back down, we have to make sure that we're keeping an eye on where those interest rates are moving to and how that affects our cash. You don't want to have so much cash sitting on the sidelines that it becomes a detriment to your portfolio and then puts you in a bad spot for growth down the line.
Yeah, see, one of the things we saw for over a decade is those cash accounts almost at zero,
Right.
not even 1%, right? Well, now everybody, over the last 4 years, interest rates have been going up, and we've been seeing some great money market rates at 4.5%. 5. Now there's still some possibly a little bit over 5. But the point is, like Casey said, they're going to be cutting rates, which is going to be great for the housing market, right? The builders. There's a great article I just put in our files today about how that's a lot of seniors are handcuffed to, they'd like to move, but they can't because the rate is so good on their loan right now.
Right.
It's called the golden handcuff. And then they know if they move, their rate is going to be double that. See, so it's a yin and a yang, right? It's good and bad. And right now, we've been getting good rates on the money market accounts, but that's going to begin to change here. And like Kate said, if you don't watch that, you could be missing out on a yield that can really matter in the long term. So we love cash. That's our yellow bucket in our planning process, and we need to have cash in that bucket anywhere from 6 to 12 months. But too much cash can really begin to be a problem. And why do we have cash usually? Because we're worried, right? We're scared that the market is going to do something we don't want. And that's where we have to be careful, because then we can miss out. And we've had clients that missed out on a complete 13-year bull run right after 2008. They got so discouraged and worried, they went into like the stable value fund at Boeing, and they never went back in. So they missed where they could have over doubled their money, right? So again, it's about a plan and being able to tactically move when we need to based on what the Fed is doing with their rates.
Well, can you give us some examples? So we've got, let's just say we've got our listeners, they're tuned to the show, and maybe they are sitting on a fair amount of cash. What are some options for them? I mean, they're nervous, they're kind of scared, they're wary investors, but what are some other options as far as what they can do with their money as opposed to just letting it sit where it currently is?
You know, that's a great question, right? And it's circumstantial, just the same that everything that we talk about is, right? It's really based on your individual situation. You know, it may make sense to put that money into the stock market in the right way, right? There's a right way and there's a wrong way, right? And how much risk you take has to be dialed to what you're comfortable with. You know, there's other investments that can be used, right? There's different investment types inside of the market. I want to share this story because I think this is really important. And Mark, you just made me think of this. So, you know, the other side is that people will, like we talked about, move to cash when they're scared, right? And we get that. And what we saw is a gentleman, he was not with our firm, but he came to us during COVID. And what he told us was that he had moved everything in his 401k, pretty sizable 401k, a couple $1 million. He'd moved everything to cash right before Trump got elected because he was so concerned. He was worried, you know, he knew the market was going to tank, right? And so that was his conservative approach. And we get the concern, right? You know, there's always some unknowns and volatility around an election like we're experiencing now. We get that. But he was so convinced that it was going to be a downfall over Trump's entire presidency that he stayed out of the market for that whole time, right? So he missed all that growth. And then even after Trump was out of office, then he was scared to buy in because he thought, well, I'm going to buy in at the wrong time, right? I know I'm going to buy in at the top and then it's going to fall out. And so cash is a good thing, but we also have to be careful that when we move to cash, we're kind of putting ourselves in a spot where we now have to time the market to buy back in, right? And so moving your entire portfolio or 75% of your portfolio to cash, that kind of thing, that is not the answer. And what we find that solves this type of problem, it's not so much the investment as it is having a plan. Right? That's what this really boils down to, because that fear can be put aside and we can deal with that fear if we have a plan that allows us to account for market volatility, that allows our income to continue even when the market is in turmoil, even when there's an election, whatever the circumstance is, if we have a plan that has different levers we can pull depending on what's happening in the world, those things that we can't control, if we have a plan that accounts for those, that gives us a confidence to stay invested to some extent, right? We're not saying that you shouldn't have any cash, but we do want to make sure that our money is working for us as best as it can.
Yeah, sorry, Morgan, there was just an interesting point on an investor here that had moved a lot to cash because she had such a tremendous run with NVIDIA that she made so much that now she was scared to go back in because she wasn't going to see that type of return. See, now that thinking that can be dangerous too, right? Because if you're not going to usually see those type of returns over the long term and think you can time it like Casey was just talking about. But the cash was beginning to be a problem for her, and she realized it. But then she was so used to what that one stock did for her that she was frozen, almost like a deer in the headlights, and she didn't want to do anything, and that was costing her too.
I tell you, really got to be in touch with what's going on, work with professionals, map out your strategy, have the confidence of your plan as you move towards retirement. Multiple income streams, guaranteed income when you're in retirement. These are all, phrases that you end up, going over, talking about, and again, having that plan. Now, the opportunity to get on the calendar with Mark and Casey and the team at Elevated Financial Management is right now. And these appointments are complimentary. Casey, walk us through what's going to happen.
Well, this is your opportunity to get that plan that we've been talking about, right? So this is your opportunity to get a written financial plan put together by our team of certified financial planners. It will account for the cash that you should keep in your portfolio, that you should keep, but it'll also come up with the ideas of how we invest that money that's not in cash. How do we invest in the market without taking too much risk? How do we create the income that we need to be sustainable in retirement? What are our taxes going to look like? And is there something that can be done with our investments to plan for taxes in the future? How do we make sure that inflation does not eat our investments alive and eat up our lifestyle? And how do we make sure that all of this lasts 20, 30 years into the future and is sustainable? So again, your opportunity for a customized written financial plan put together by our team of certified financial planners. Don't hesitate. Pick up the phone. Call us now.
Here is the phone number, 866-668-3625. That's 866-668-3625. Call now. These are complimentary. 866-668-3625. When we return on Elevate Your Wealth, we're going to talk about longevity. That's when we come back. We are back on Elevate Your Wealth. Your hosts, Mark Stimpson and Casey Elkins, Elevated Financial Management, right here in Seattle. Over 42 years combined experience for these two, helping hundreds of their clients get ready for retirement. They're certified financial fiduciaries. They have a wonderful resource website. Check out EFMNW.com. Again, all letters, easy to remember, EFMNW.com. Links to the TV show and, of course, radio shows and podcast form. Great information there. Contact information. You can find out how to do that. Get in touch with Elevated Financial Management and set up one of the complimentary appointments we talk about each and every week. See if you're on track for your retirement. I'm Morgan Patrick, and now we are moving towards... and we're all headed this way, right? We're going to live a little bit longer. I mean, the numbers are there. Longevity is a thing. The article you pushed out to me, guys, living past 110 years old, 20, 30 years ago, you'd be laughing at that number.
Right.
And right now we are not, Mark.
Yeah, this is something that, in fact, we were just talking about this during the break, that a person born in the United States just passed away and they think was the oldest living human known right now, was living in Spain and died at 116. Now, why is this something we talk about on our show? We call this the longevity risk, right? The risk multiplier. The problem is the longer we live, it's going to multiply some of the other issues that can cause a real disruption in a retirement plan. The need for long-term care goes up dramatically, right? The longer we live. What about the possibility of having to live through an extra bear market or two, that can really mess up your money that you're tying to the market? We call that the red bucket of money. Then, you've got all these other issues that can be exploited the longer we live. What about when should I turn Social Security on? A lot of people want to do that early, right? Because they think it's going to run out or they're not going to live long enough. And the statistics are telling us that's exactly the opposite.
Yeah, if you live to 110, you're in big trouble if you start your Social Security early, right?
Yeah, you wouldn't believe how much more money you would have had you waited. So these are some of the things that we want to discuss with our clients because it does matter, especially the Social Security piece. That's a major leg on that three-legged stool, right, that we talk about all the time about for income. Where's it going to come from? So the decision you make when it comes to Social Security the average, a great study out not too long ago talked about that a person that goes at 62 versus waiting till full retirement age, we call that FRA, right? You're going to lose almost $200,000 in income over normal life expectancy. So that matters. And so again, when you take Social Security, when you decide to pull the ripcord on your parachute, is going to have a significant factor for most people, not all. If you don't live, we know the crossover, we run these illustrations all the time, is about 12 years that we need to live to make up for, let's say, not taking our money for 4 years, right? But again, that's why we have a plan. We can show clients how to reduce taxes by possibly using some of that qualified money to then replace what Social Security would have been, and letting that grow at between 6 and 8%, depending on where you are age-wise, that we don't have the guaranteed roll-up rates that we have, on our red money, the money that's tied to stocks or bonds. So Social Security decisions are something you want to be really, really good at. I think you got something you want to add, Casey.
Yeah, I do. It's like exposure time, right? So I was reading an article and it kind of related to this. So exposure time, when you think about like nuclear plants and that kind of thing, it's the way that they work those is that you can be exposed for a certain amount of time without it being lethal, right? And it's the same way when it comes to our retirement planning. Mark, you mentioned longevity risk. When we talk about all these risks that we talk about day in and day out, the longer we live, the longer our exposure time to all of these risks, the higher chance for failure. That's really what we're getting at here, right? And so, especially when it comes to running out of money, that's the number one concern for people when they move into retirement. And it absolutely should be the number one concern, right? Because that's the biggest issue that you're going to face. And so, if we are planning a retirement of 25 years, and we live 26, that could be an issue, right? And the reality here is that lots of people are making it into their mid to late 90s, into 100 plus. That is one of the largest or quickest growing segments is folks that are 100 plus. And as medicine continues to advance, it gets quicker and it extends more and more.
I do want to throw this in. So you're meeting with someone and you're having these conversations about the planning process and things you need to be looking out for, and you get to the longevity issue. Do you have a number that you end up talking with people about? So, they may think that they're going to live until their late 70s, early 80s, and then you have the conversation, well, you might want to add to your runway because I would rather plan for a little bit more and then also plan for something posthumously for that money as opposed to running out of money.
Yeah, that's exactly it right there, Morgan. Too many people are cutting their lifespan short. Now, granted, none of us know, right? If we knew when all of our clients were going to die, it would sure make planning a lot easier for us in that regard. But too many people don't think they're going to live long enough. And the average life expectancy now for a male is pushing early 80s, female mid 80s. And I mean, my grandfather, I was in this business because of what happened to him getting Alzheimer's, and he didn't die till he was 97. And again, my grandmother, 92. So again, we're seeing clients, like Casey was mentioning, one of the fastest growing segments in the United States are those that are becoming centurions. And then we've got the super centurions that are living past 110, and they're trying to study them, their brains after they pass away, as to why are they living this long. Nobody, now, they call these zones in the world, I think they're called blue zones, where people are living longer there than other sections of the world. They're trying to figure all of this out. But what we do know is we are living longer today than ever before because of what Casey mentioned, especially advances in medicine and science. And so planning to cut that short, we are with you 100%, Morgan. We'd rather have clients have money, income that they know they cannot outlive if they live to 100 or 110. The point is, what happens if I've got a great article. She ran out of money. She's living with her daughter now, and she's embarrassed because of what's happened. And she was very smart in the business world, but she never figured she was going to live into her 90s, and that's exactly what happened. And so this can backfire retire, if you think that you're just not going to live long enough and you plan too short of a lifespan when it comes to your income, boy, this can be a real problem. And we want our clients to just be realistic about it. So you're right. We want to plan, most plans, we want it to go into the 90s, easy, mid-90s, late 90s.
So think about this, folks. I mean, we end up talking numbers, investing, making sure you have enough money for your retirement. But the grand scheme of things, it's the plan. And it takes into account so many other things than just the numbers. Because it is your retirement. Now, if you've got questions about your own situation, there's an opportunity to get on the calendar with Elevated Financial Management at no cost, no obligation. There's no pressure here. Again, there's no charge. You're leaving the checkbook at home. Call this number, 866-668-3625. Grab one of these appointments. Again, they're complimentary. If you've saved $250,000 or more towards your retirement, these strategies are going to work best for you. Call the number now. Secure an appointment. Get to the front of the line, 866-668-3625. Now, longevity, that means you've got other things you got to worry about. And we talk about health care. We talk about long-term care. The stat we've been using, I think, for the last couple of years, Fidelity did the survey, but the average couple in retirement is going to spend over $300,000 just on health care. That doesn't include long-term care. Right. But think about those numbers. How are you going to pay for it? We are talking longevity, so let's just assume we're pushing 90, Mark. We're pushing 95. Maybe we get close to, three figures. Maybe we get close to 100. We're going to have issues. We got to be able to pay for it.
Yeah, and you mentioned it. Casey and I, we talk about this because if there's one thing that's going to blow a great plan up, it's going to be long-term care. Right. We've talked about this recently with clients that have been in here. Right in our area, we're pushing $14,000, $15,000 a month for one person if they need full-blown nursing care, right? And that is a number that nobody wants to talk about. They don't want to admit it. They always think that it's going to happen to somebody else. But the problem is that government statistics are telling us 70 to 75% of us are going to use some form of long-term care. Those numbers are staggering. So please, don't think it's never could happen to you. It's just not realistic, and it can be devastating to family if you don't address this.
And the other side of that too is what happens to the other spouse, right?
Yeah.
That's one of the biggest issues. Okay, let's say you have enough income or money to pay for that. Do you have enough income or money to still let the other spouse live their life, right? And that's one of the biggest issues that we see, is that we see a spouse essentially becoming poor because of that.
Well, let's open it up. We've got appointments. Mark, what's going to happen for these callers?
Well, you've heard us talk about the possibility of longevity risk messing you up and your family up. Please, if you've saved a couple $100,000 more, you're retiring from Boeing or one of our great companies, please give us a call. Let us help you put together a plan that's going to address longevity risk. Tax planning, we haven't touched on that much today. What about your income? Is it guaranteed? Please let our team of certified financial planners put together a plan for you that is specific to you. Please keep your checkbook at home. Just call us and let's have a conversation and see if we can help you put together a plan that's going to make your retirement dreams become reality. So please give us a call.
Here's the phone number, 866-668-3625. That's 866-668-3625. If you've saved $250,000 or more towards your retirement, these strategies going to work best for you. Call the number now, secure an appointment, and they are complimentary. 866-668-3625. How many eggs are too many eggs for one basket? I'm a huge egg fan. We're going to talk about this particular article as it relates to retirement. That's when we return. Elevate Your Wealth, hosted by Mark Stimpson and Casey Elkins. Elevated Financial Management, the power behind this program. That's where you can find Mark and Casey, again, right here in Seattle. They've got over 42 years combined experience in the retirement planning business. They are certified financial fiduciaries, and it's always about helping their clients get ready for retirement. And this isn't a one-meeting thing. This is a relationship, and you are going to create that plan for your retirement. Great website. Check it out, efmnw.com. All letters, easy to remember, EFMNW.com. Links to the TV show, our radio shows in podcast form. Great information there. I'm Morgan Patrick, and again, each and every week, it's always the importance of having a plan for retirement, and we give you an opportunity, we give you an outlet to grab a complimentary appointment with Elevated Financial Management. So just listen up for the opportunity, get into the office, and start talking about what you need to be doing for your retirement if you haven't started, and then if you have, you might be in a position where you're frustrated. Maybe you're a little confused with what's going on with your current plan. Get a second opinion. We'll tell you how to do that here very shortly. So the next article that caught your attention, guys, how many eggs are too many for one basket? Now, I said coming in, or coming out of the last break and coming into this, basically, I'm a huge egg fan. I mean, I love eggs, absolutely. And when I saw this article, I'm like, you know what? We're going to really dig in here, but obviously we're talking about retirement, we're talking about funds, we're talking about where your monies are. So what grabbed you about how many eggs are too many for one basket?
Just stop it about the protein, Morgan, okay?
I'll say
Egg protein, a Jew. Beefcake, beefcake.
I like my eggs cooked in bacon fat. That's the way to do it right there.
You know,
And there's nothing wrong with that.
If you can take something healthy and then put some bacon fat on it, I'm interested. You know what I mean?
I just want all the listeners to know this is what happens in our office too, okay? So one of the things about this article, though, that I think is why we need to talk about this is, and we've had this recently where we've had clients come in and they have a heavy position in a certain stock. We've seen Costco be one of them. We've seen Microsoft very recently with heavy positions where they've done very, very well on those stocks, right? But it's a different time of life, and they're trying to get ready for the preservation phase versus the accumulation. Right. And how critical is it? And this is where some clients get worried that they got that capital gains boogeyman to worry about, right? Yep. And they don't want to face him, but yet now might be the perfect time because taxes are going up. And what's going to happen if capital gains rates go from 15 to 30 or 20 to 40%? Are you going to be depressed a little bit that you did wait? See, these are the type of conversations that we want to have, and why you do not want all your eggs or the bulk of those eggs in one basket, even if you're trying to eat them or not. Doesn't matter. So the point is, you've really got to have a plan for this. And we're dealing with several plans right now where we've got clients that have heavy stock positions. And so the tax planning piece that we're helping them with, they weren't getting that from where they were before. Right.
Yeah, and that's it could be Costco, Microsoft. We've seen Boeing recently. Yep. NVIDIA, even some oil companies. We've seen folks that have had massive capital gains in these companies, and there's a couple things that happen there. Number one, that can start to become an emotional attachment. Right?
I think you're right, Casey. It's almost like collecting ball cards, man. When you've got certain stocks, it's hard. They're like your babies. You don't want to let them go.
Yep. And so you form this emotional attachment, and you're right, you don't want to let them go. And we see it all the time. And so that's the first thing to contend with. The second thing is, okay, maybe I'm not emotionally attached to that. I am willing to sell it. Then the next thing becomes, well, I don't really want to pay the taxes to sell it. And my cost basis on that investment's really low because I've held it for 20 years. Which has worked out great, right? That's been great. But the reality is that you've got to turn that money into income at some point. You have to. That is the only way that it has a positive effect in your life, is if you take it as income. Taking your big statement, your investment account statement to McDonald's won't get you a cheeseburger. They're going to force you to turn it into income first, right? So you've got to do something with that. And so, I think maybe we can look at it this way. This might simplify it, hopefully. If we look at where we're at in terms of taxes, we are in one of the most efficient tax windows that we are ever going to see. Possibly the most tax efficient window that any of us are going to see in our lifetimes.
But the window's closing, right?
But the window's closing. So we know right now that current tax law sunsets next year at the end of 2025, right? And so we know that piece will change. But there have been proposals, as Mark mentioned, to increase capital gains. From right now, it's at 15 and 20%, depending on your income level. It's either 15 or 20% that you pay in capital gains tax, up to 30 and 40%. Okay, so doubling. Now, Kamala has introduced something that would still bring those rates up into the low to mid 30s. Okay, so we understand that something has got to happen. If you take yourself out of this situation and think about this, do you think taxes are going up? If you say no to that question, then we are on totally different wavelengths. I think we all believe that taxes are going up. Mm-hmm. They have got to, when you look at the debt of the country and how things are ran, that have to go up. If that's the case, you can choose to pay taxes at today's rate when you know that they're lower than what they're going to be later because they're going up, right? And that's it. We have got to deal with this. This is the time to deal with it. And, right now we're talking about capital gains rates, but income tax rates are going to go up, like we mentioned at the end of 2025. And actually, we got a pretty cool tool for our listeners. So if you go to taxbillseattle.com, that will bring you to a spot where you can enter information about your household, the investment accounts that you have, and it will show you the tax burden that you have on your qualified accounts. So your 401ks, your IRAs. And we have folks that do this all the time. We talk about it on the TV show. We talk about it with folks in the office. And if you take advantage of that, you'll see the tax burden that you've got to deal with, and it'll give you a customized report. And that, if nothing lights a fire under you, that absolutely will. Because when you look at the taxes over a lifetime on $1 million 401k, it is staggering and is something that you have got to address.
See, one thing I want to add to this is how many times do we talk to a client or students at our workshops and say, it's not how much you have, it's how much you keep. I'd much rather have the keep part of it. It's like, Morgan, you've talked about this. Would you rather pay tax on the seed when you plant the crop, or do you want to pay it on the whole, harvesting of that crop, right? Well, we all know it would be the seed. It'd be much less tax. Well, now is a chance to take advantage of some rates that we're never going to see again in our lifetime. And this matters, friends. Anybody listening, please pick up the phone, call us, because if you don't, you're probably going to regret that you didn't take this opportunity during one of the greatest tax rate in our lifetime. I know in my lifetime.
Yeah. You're locked in to Elevate Your Wealth, powered by Elevated Financial Management. We do give you an opportunity to get on the calendar with Elevated Financial Management at no cost to you. These appointments, again, are complimentary. All you've got to do is call this number, 866-668-3625. If you've saved $250,000 or more towards your retirement, these strategies are going to work best for you. 866-668-3625. And remember, too, so many of you out there have done an amazing job saving for retirement, but most of you have it in tax-deferred accounts. So what is your number? What are you looking at? Well, they've given you an opportunity to go to taxbillseattle.com. Again, this is complimentary, taxbillseattle.com. Plug your numbers in, and you're going to get a pretty good idea of where you currently sit. And then you start you got to start the planning process. I know you guys have this conversation with clients quite often. The tax part of the conversation, it's vital.
It is. Yeah, it's absolutely important. As Mark mentioned, it's not how much you have, it's how much you keep. And if you've got a plan that doesn't account for taxes, you don't really have a plan, right? Because you don't know what you're going to keep. If you have a retirement plan that does not account for inflation, same thing. You really don't have a plan because you don't know how much of that money is actually going to be yours 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now, and how much that's going to impact your lifestyle. And so taxes have got to be part of the plan. It's not something that we want to include. I get that, right? It's not a fun conversation. We don't enjoy it either. But it's something that we have got to talk about. And it has to be accounted for when you're looking at a 20, 25, 30, 35-year retirement. Taxes are going to likely continue to go up over that time frame, and they will eat away at your retirement if you don't have a plan to account for it.
Here's something to go along with that we've talked about before a lot of times, Casey, is the simple fact that we see a lot of people that have been great savers, and if you have a heavily concentrated position, it becomes very hard mentally to begin to want to unwind that position, right, and make income out of it. Well, what did you build all this wealth for? Right. Now, if it's just to pass it to the next generation, as long as we continue to get the step up in basis, that's going to be fine. But at some point, you should begin to enjoy all of the work that you did by buying those stocks and keeping them and be diligent about it, because you and I both know the hardest thing that we have to fight with so many clients is those that have been such great savers to help them become great spenders.
Right.
They just don't want to do it. And again, a lot of it's because of taxes. And I'd much rather have a tax problem because of extra income than not be living the life because I'm so worried about taxes. We talk about now the tax bill is wagging the dog, right? Instead of it being the other way around. You should be wagging the dog based on your income. The taxes, we all have to deal with that. But clients that are living the type of retirement that they've dreamed about have a tax plan, and they're not afraid to pay some tax, because we got to do that to have more income. I'd rather have more income. It's a given.
Absolutely, yeah, and that's what we want for all of our clients, right?
Yeah.
And the reality is you want to make your finances fit your lifestyle, not your lifestyle fit your finances. And if you are avoiding dealing with capital gains or taking money out of your investment accounts because you're worried about taxes, you are allowing your finances to dictate your lifestyle instead of the other way around. Yeah. And that is not a plan for retirement happiness, right? That's really going to back you into a corner in where you feel like your hands are tied, and you might not recognize it right away. We see people do this all the time. They come into us, they've been retired for a number of years, and what they've done is they've found a way to live just on the income that they have, and they're afraid to take money out of their investment account. So if that describes you, this is your opportunity to get a written financial plan put together by our team of certified financial planners. This will talk about dealing with the taxes in your qualified accounts. This will talk about dealing with capital gains inside of the individual stock positions that you might hold. Maybe investments that have been great for you, but at some point we have got to deal with those taxes and turn that money into income. It'll also talk about creating an income plan for you, making sure that money lasts in retirement, dealing with healthcare. There's so much to it. You need something custom built just for you. Don't hesitate. Pick up the phone. Call us now.
Custom built just for you. Complimentary. Call the number 866-668-3625. If you've saved $250,000 or more towards your retirement, these strategies are going to work best for you. Call the number now. Secure an appointment. Again, you're leaving the checkbook at home. These are complimentary. 866-668-3625. When we return on Elevate Your Wealth, when do you open a Roth? Is Roth a good idea? We're going to talk Roth when we return on Elevate Your Wealth. Welcome back into Elevate Your Wealth, powered by Elevated Financial Management right here in Seattle. 42 years combined experience between Mark Stimpson and Casey Elkins. Look, it's all about helping their clients get ready for their retirement. It takes a customized plan. They're certified financial fiduciaries. I'm Morgan Patrick. I get the privilege of hanging out with the guys each week and talking retirement, the importance of having a plan, but also giving you, the listener, an opportunity to get on the calendar with Elevated Financial Management at no cost, no obligation, no pressure, just to see where you are. And again, we are here to help you. You can grab an appointment at any time during the show. Move to the front of the line by calling 866-668-3625. That's 866-668-3625. So we left the last portion of the program talking about the importance of possibly at least thinking about opening up a Roth account. Mark, I'll throw it to you first. I mean, the Roth it's such an interesting tool, a vehicle, but it's one that a lot of people really need to take a serious look at.
Mm-hmm. And in fact, it's one of the biggest ways that we can take advantage right now of the tax situation and the low rates that we're talking about. We call it a backdoor conversion. It could be important to open one up late in life if you're still working and have W-2 wages. But what we're seeing a lot more with clients is the need to start to convert some of that qualified money and pay the tax on it at the lowest rate they're ever going to see. So we're big believers. We're working on plans actually right now where that is the case. We're going to strategically stuff a bracket, and we call it bracket stuffing, of course, and that way we can add additional income, keep a client in the very same tax bracket that they're in, and be able to convert that money. And especially powerful is the fact that as it grows now going forward, all of that growth is going to be not have to be mortgaged part of it to Uncle Sam, which we really like. Tax-free beats tax-deferred all day long. So if we can help our clients pay tax now at a known rate versus what we know is coming going to be a higher rate, I think it's going to make a tremendous amount of sense. And I think you probably agree with that wholeheartedly, right, Casey?
I do. Yeah, absolutely. Because you know what? I think sometimes people look at those accounts and they go, well, it's years before I need income out of that account, that kind of thing. And you put it off, You have got to take money out of your qualified accounts at some point, whether you want to or not. It's called a required minimum distribution, right? So maybe you don't need the income, but because you've had tax deferral on those dollars, you have got to take a minimum amount at some point. Right now, that age is 73. It'll be pushed to age 75 over time. But ultimately, you've got to take money out. And so if you've got to take money out, that means you've got to pay taxes at some point. Why not deal with it now? Why not have a plan for it now? And this article brings out something right here that I thought was really good. It's talking about a gentleman named John Moore. It says he hadn't considered the ramifications of higher taxable income of when he would have to begin taking required minimum distributions. These are his words. As soon as I saw the math, it didn't take rocket science to figure it out. Yep. This is what we have the taxbillseattle.com website for, right? That's why it's there, because as soon as you see it, you will understand the importance of what we're talking about. And then it goes on to say, he is now undertaking a multi-year process of converting some of his pre-tax retirement savings to a Roth. I want to key in on this. Multi-year process. This takes time. This is not, I'm retiring next week. Let me see about a Roth conversion. If you convert your entire 401k at $1 million, let's say, to a Roth, you're going to be annihilated in taxes, right? This is something that takes time. It takes strategy. It takes effort. It takes planning. And that's why we're talking about it as much as we are. You have got to take the time to put this into your plan.
And the time is now. We've already talked already on the show today that the tax window is starting to close. So why wouldn't you want to take a look at your tax-deferred accounts and see if a Roth conversion is a good fit for you? And again, educate yourself, talk with professionals, Mark, Casey, their team, and see if the conversion is something you want to at least consider. I mean, have the conversation. And with that window closing, now's the time to do it.
Because for me, it's a simple fact. Would you rather have tax-free money or tax-deferred money? And I don't, like Casey said, if it takes a lot of rocket science to figure that one out, there's not much we're probably going to be able to help you do. Tax-free beats tax-deferred all day long. And so if we can help our clients create as much tax-free money over time. Now, there is some hurdles that we have to deal with. And one of them, do we have money in other accounts, taxed accounts, non-qualified accounts that we can use to pay the tax that's going to be due when we do these conversions. So there is a process that we need to go through, and each client's situation is different. But if you'll come in and talk with us, we're going to be able to lay it out and help you figure it out, whether this is going to be a great move for you or maybe a move that you don't want to do right now because your situation just isn't going to allow. We just don't know.
Yeah, we don't know, right? And not until we have the conversation. There's another way you can find out for yourself. I've mentioned it already. It's taxbillseattle.com, right? I mean, go to that. You can put in the information there, and it will spit out a custom report for you, and you can see exactly what we're talking about. You can understand how this is going to affect your individual circumstance. And I think that right there is probably one of the most powerful things that we can offer you right now today on the show. That will help put this into terms that you can understand.
And what a great resource. Again, taxbillseattle.com. That's taxbillseattle.com. Plug your numbers in, and you will exactly know what you're looking at as far as the tax ramifications. Now, the opportunity to get on the calendar with Elevated Financial Management, meet with Mark, Casey, and their team, comes at no cost to you. You can call this number, move to the front of the line, claim one of these appointments, 866-668-3625. That's 866-668-3625. If you've saved $250,000 or more towards your retirement, these strategies are going to work best for you. Call the number, 866 668-3625. All right, we're going to move to scenarios. Got a couple of them for you guys. Get your thoughts on this. And again, you may hear a scenario on the program from time to time that's similar to what you're going through, but it's not exactly what you're going through. So take these with a grain of salt, right? They're scenarios. So here's the first one. And you guys can jump on these as you know, a pair of advisors. You can do them solo, however you want to do it. Retirement is great, but not exactly what I had envisioned. I pay all my monthly bills with automatic withdrawals from my brokerage account. I have more than enough money for everything. I just haven't been able to shift from spending only what I need to spend money on to spending more. Do you have any advice to help me spend more of my money?
That's a great question. And I think that, you know, this is not an uncommon story, right? We see this in our office. We see people, and I've mentioned it before, Mark's talked about it. We see people come in that have pared their life down to just live on the income that they have, the guaranteed income that they have, right? And so people are not living their lives in retirement like they could be, and we think that's a mistake. And so what we find is always the best way to have more income and to feel comfortable about that is to do so in a guaranteed way and to have a plan. That's the biggest thing, is that you have a plan to spend more. Because the reason that you're probably not spending more is because you're nervous, right? It's because you're concerned that the assets aren't going to last. You don't know how long you need that money to last. And so without a plan, you don't have the confidence to go spend in retirement. And that's the majority of what we do day in and day out is giving people confidence to go spend their own money. I mean, it's like we're giving you a license to spend that money. That's really the key here. And so, you know, a plan is what gives you the ability to do that and gives you, again, the confidence, the clarity, the independence to make those decisions and live your life in retirement. We don't want anybody living a less than retirement. We want you to go enjoy that time, and it's a plan that allows you to do that.
Again, you can grab an appointment with Elevated Financial Management, complimentary. There's no cost to this. 866-668-3625. Again, 866-668-3625. You're going to walk out with a written financial plan. If you've saved $250,000 or more towards your retirement, these strategies are going to work best for you. But again, it's just peace of mind. You don't know what you don't know. There are a lot of people out there that are, and you may be in this category, where you're sitting on a portfolio, a lot of tax-deferred accounts. What's going to happen when you get to retirement? Wouldn't you like to know? Again, a lot of options for you. You can grab an appointment at 866-668-3625. And on the tax side of things, go to the website taxbillseattle.com and give that a test run. Plug your numbers in, see what you get. taxbillseattle.com. All right, last scenario, guys. Here it is. 63, just got an inheritance, $200,000. I have $15,000 in credit card debt and $50,000 left on my mortgage, so I could, in theory, not in theory, I could definitely be debt-free and still have about $135K left to invest. Or I could invest all of it and just continue paying off debts over the next few years. What would be a good suggestion here?
Well, this is where going to need a little bit more information in total, but I want to address a couple of things. It's awesome that you're inheriting some money. And also the next big one was $15,000 in credit card debt. I think Casey and I would both agree, most credit card debt, you're talking low 20%, maybe 25, 26, 27%. That is debt that we would almost always recommend that you go ahead and get paid off. It's going to take too much interest to not do that. Now, the mortgage, the $50,000 left on the mortgage, now that's a big maybe. I would need to know the rate on that money, because there's a lot of money out there, mortgage rate, where 2.5, maybe 3 or low 3. So if that's the case, we could possibly make some money, right? Instead of paying that off, we call this arbitrage. What is arbitrage? Arbitrage would be the difference of that mortgage rate and what you could invest it at. Meaning, if I could get 5% on my money, but my mortgage rate is 3, well, then I'm better off to invest that money and take the 2% that I gain in positive arbitrage or positive dollars and do it that way. So again, I think we need to know a little bit more about your specific situation, but high credit card debt, we had some of those last week. That needs to be paid off if at all possible. The mortgage rate, that's a different story. We would need to know what your rates are, and once we find that out, then we can help you make a decision on what you should do.
All right, we're up against it. We've got appointments. We've got, and again, complimentary. Mark, kind of walk us through what's going to happen.
Yeah, please, if you heard us, maybe you've got some debt that you're worried about. You're worried about where your income is going to come from. What about your tax situation? We talked about SeattleTaxBill.com. Please go to that site, pick up the phone, let our team of certified financial planners put together a plan that's going to help your retirement become reality. And there's no cost to do that. Keep your checkbook at home. Just pick up the phone, give us a call.
All right, here's the phone number to call, 866-668-3625. That's 866-668-3625. Call now. Another edition of Elevate Your Wealth in the books. Again, powered by Elevated Financial Management right here in Seattle. For Mark and Casey, I'm Morgan. We'll see you on the radio next week.
Investment advisory services offered through Foundations Investment Advisors, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. The content provided is intended for informational and educational purposes only. The views, statements, and opinions expressed herein are those of the individual speakers and not necessarily those of Foundations and its affiliates. The information contained herein does not constitute an offer to sell any securities or represent an express or implied opinion or endorsement of any specific opportunity, offering, or issuer. Any discussion of performance or returns is not indicative of future results. Each individual investor situation is different, and any ideas provided may not be appropriate for your particular circumstances. Foundations only transacts business in states where it is properly registered or excluded or exempted from registration requirements. Registration as an investment advisor is not an endorsement of the firm by securities regulators and does not mean the advisor has achieved a specific level of skill or ability. No legal or tax advice is provided. Always consult with a tax professional. All rights reserved.